Hi, I'm Senator Adam Hollier, and this is the We Can Do Better podcast. I'm super excited this week because I have my friend Orlando Bailey on. This is a pro, right? So he does podcasts and like journalism for like his whole job, has a whole degree in this space. I'll introduce you, let him introduce himself. But I just want you to know that you're in for a real treat because this is a guest who actually knows what he's doing. So Orlando, where are you from? Like, what's the Orlando story?
The Orlando story is a simple one. I'm just a kid from the East Side trying to inform and prioritize Detroiters' needs over everybody else's, man. I born and raised on the East Side, still residing on the East Side of the city of Detroit. Graduated from Detroit Public Schools, went on to Eastern Michigan, came back home, and have been home ever since. I have about 13 years in now since graduating. So yeah, I know I look like I'm 12 still, but I have a little bit of experience. I have a little bit of experience under my belt. Right now, I am a full-time journalist here in the city of Detroit. I serve as the director of engagement for bridgedetroit.com. It's a multimedia platform that seeks to deliver news that Detroiters themselves identify based on the priorities that they speak to us about, right? So the goal is to have as many conversations with Detroiters as possible and leverage our journalistic prowess and knowledge to provide answers, solutions, information, and accountability to those priorities that Detroiters identify. So it's a responsive news model. It's a solutions-oriented news model, and it's one that a lot of news organizations don't have the time or capacity or the will or desire to do so. But what's cool about us is that's how we started. It's our business model. And Stephen Henderson, Pulitzer Prize winning journalist, Stephen Henderson, started Bridge Detroit in 2020. And what he sought out to do was hire Detroiters, right? He didn't want folks having to commute in. He wanted to hire a newsroom of Detroiters and people who reflected the demographic makeup of the city of Detroit. And so I'm excited to be in a majority Black and Latino newsroom that's headed up by a Black woman. Conversely, I also host my own podcast. Senator Hollier has been a habitual guest on. We just had.
I'm trying to be more regular, you know. I'm trying to be more regular. I'm trying to be like that guy that they're like, is he back? Oh.
All you gotta do is let us know. You have an open invite. It's called Authentically Detroit. We just recorded our 100th episode. We started it in 2019. And what we did not know when we started is that this platform and this podcast would become a mainstay when we talk about, you know, submersive discourse about the city of Detroit, right? Serving a niche that has a desire to hear commentary and to hear news from the perspective of people who are actually living the news and writing and curating.
And so I think that's a really interesting kind of segue as you talk about the work that you're doing at Bridge Detroit with what Authentically Detroit is. So like I had a conversation with a friend about, you know, more Detroit-based stuff. Like, how do I stay on top of stuff? And they're like, well, are you listening to Authentically Detroit? And I was like, no, what's that? And they were like, oh, it's Orlando and Donna's thing. I was like, well, already that, you know, that's a benefit. And so I often find that you all are talking about things that are culturally relevant and relevant to the city. And it's unique to have a Black man, Black woman perspective talking about issues that you may see in other periodicals. And it's like, you know, one tiny line of a whole day's thing, but you are talking about a thing in a neighborhood, in a community, and this kind of real issues that I think don't get covered. And when you talk about the work that you all are doing at Bridge Detroit, it similarly is taking those same things that aren't being covered and talking about them from a reporter's lens, right? So it's like authentically Detroit is like, hey man, this is how I feel about this thing. This is my truth. This is my zhuzh. But on in Bridge, it's like, hey, here is the neighborhood's truth, but written in a way that people can understand it and dissect it and relate. So it's like, that's not my neighborhood. That's not where I'm from. But I get that that's what you're talking about.
Man, I appreciate you saying that, both about Authentically Detroit and Bridge. I always say this about Bridge Detroit, man, is that we're not in a business of trying to break the news, right? So we're not rushing to break news. We're not a daily. We're not the Free Press. We're not the Detroit News. We know exactly who we are. What we're more interested in doing is telling stories with that voice, right? With that Detroit voice. And so our reporters operate in this duality, if you will, of having to report on the Detroit experience while also living the Detroit experience. And I think that provides for a different kind of accountability as well as a different kind of storytelling. Now, the podcast dynamic is, you know, Donna and I have very different approaches. Like I'm the professional journalist.
and she want to let that know. She's like that, like you always know somebody's about to go a little left when they're like, well, you know, I'm not a professional. So I'm gonna say what I was like, well, okay. I mean, I knew who you were when you started this. Like I listen, I'm a listener. But when she starts going on, or you know, it's like, or when you're out of town and you're like, well, you know, Orlando's not here, so I'm just gonna say, you were gonna say it anyway. And I joke because, you know, as I said, you know, we really are friends, but I'm like, it's the listening to the podcast. It's one of those things where I feel like I have talked to you more frequently maybe than I have, because I'm like, oh yeah, man, I was just listening to you talk about that thing. I know you was on vacation taking that mental health, you know, week, because we just did it, you know.
It was on the podcast, right?
Yeah. But well, you weren't on the podcast is why I knew.
Yeah, we offer, I think, you know, an amazing dichotomy. Not only are we a Black male and female, but we are two different generations, right? I think she's a late boomer. I'm an elder millennial almost, if you want to call it that. And she's a community development professional, advocate, activist. I'm a journalist, right? So she's able to say things that I just won't or cannot say. So, you know, I think it provides, number one, for a dynamic listener experience, but also attention that you can sort of sense and carry throughout you know, our conversations and how we produce the shows, even when we have a guest on like you know what I mean? It's always a good time. We love to spar. We love to, you know, talk. Yeah. At the end of the day, it is still informative and it's still a deep dive. It's the deep dive that you were saying earlier that residents just don't get everywhere in the city.
And so as we talk about deep dive, I think the reporter over at Bridge that I've been spending the most time with it is probably Sergio, talking about the Citizens Redistricting Commission and how it's going to impact Detroiters or not, and to do something. Can you just talk a little bit about how folks engage with Bridge if they have a story in their neighborhood or something that they feel like isn't being heard, how they reach out or connect or you know, how they get the story told that needs to be told that only you all want to tell?
Yeah, shout out to Sergio, man, who is an amazing reporter. He's our Capitol watchdog, so he's always at your workplace, Adam. So the cool thing about the model that we are trying to create, we call it the community priorities model. And so what we are doing is trying to prioritize the issues that Detroiters want to give platform to, want to expose. And so we're not a newsroom that is commiserating amongst ourselves in the ivory tower, deciding what is news. Rather than we are in constant communication with Detroiters about their Detroit experience. And what we see rising to the top are the things or the beats that we send our reporters on. And so we released a progress report last year that highlighted that Detroiters are in desperate need of home repair. And so we pulled down our home repair coverage and partnered with the University of Michigan. I think we were the first publication to call the lack of home repair resources throughout the city a crisis, right? Living in derelict homes. Folks wanted to know what was going on, you know, in the police department and the police governing structure. And so I think more than any other outlet, we've reported what's been happening at the Board of Police Commissioners meeting.
And where do they follow this reporting? Shameless plugs here.
Oh yeah, you can follow the reporting on bridgedetroit.com, right?
And
Bridgedetroit.com.
that's Bridge spelled BRIDGE,
Yes,
Detroit, one word,
one
dot
word,
com.
.com. And we on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. So you can go to all of our platforms and follow us
Are
there.
y'all making funny TikTok videos?
We are
Some
not
TikTok videos.
making funny TikTok videos just yet, but
Okay.
we think it's coming. We have a partnership that I don't want to expose just yet that's coming
Okay.
up with a really prominent, media and storytelling figure in the city of Detroit that I think is going to, help us cross into that lane. We're also still staffing up on the engagement side. Now, how do we hear Detroiters? It's my job. It's my job to continue to make sure that I am as visible as possible, to convene community, to go to where community is, to extract, to hear, to make sure that we have fidelity to what residents are saying. And so I'll have a focus group with the same people maybe 2 times. It's like, this is what we heard. Did we hear this right? Correct. Did we get it right? Did we get it wrong? Oh, okay, we got it right. Okay, so this is what we're doing. And I think what also makes us unique is that we employ what my colleague at the Associated Press, Kat Stafford, says, a model of equitable sourcing. What tends to happen in traditional news, and I can get in the weeds on this, and I'm not even sure you're listening.
No, go ahead. I'm listening. I'm excited about this. Yeah. I feel like you're about to drop a little knowledge bomb, one of those big nuggets.
What happens is because of the institutions that journalism was birthed in, the racist institution that journalism had continued to perpetuate, we had to choose, right? We had to be surgical in choosing how we want to source our stories. And so Kat Stafford talks about equitable sourcing. So yes, we'll go to the press conference that the people within the chambers of power will call. So yeah, we'll show up to a Senator Hollier press conference, and yeah, we'll quote you. Or maybe not, maybe we'll quote a resident who was there. You know what I'm saying? Maybe we'll quote somebody who is supposed to experience the impact of the work that Senator Hollier is doing, instead of saying, or quoting Senator Hollier saying, we did this, and this, and this is how it was. So it's like, oh, let's talk to resident Brenda, who is a recipient of this work, and let's get her take on how the work shows up on the pavements of neighborhoods. It's a slight difference, but I think it makes all the difference, right? Honoring.
But how do you do Miss Brenda? How do you do Miss Brenda and not like Cousin Ray Ray, but also do Cousin Ray Ray? So like, as every Black person does, there is that cringe moment when you're watching TV news and you're like, man, I was at that event. It was 70 people who were there for the right reasons, who knew what they was talking about. And you quote the dude who just walked by, and you know what I'm saying? And it's like, who don't know nothing about the thing. Like, how do you balance the need to get the regular person's comments, but also being like, that's too regular?
No. See, Adam, I love this question because it is something that we are also really, really intentional about. The cool thing about having a newsroom of Detroiters is that we can relate, and like we can really get and talk to Detroiters on a continuum wherever they are. So when I'm out and we get, cousin Ray Ray and cousin Pookie who want to be quoted, I'm going to make sure, and I'm going to coach them. Like, I want you to say what you say, but I'm also going to make sure that I leave you with your dignity. I'm also going to make sure that we're not being extractive in our storytelling. And so I'm like, okay, I'm hear what you're saying, but do you want to say it this way? Or, you know what I mean? And maybe because you got your clothes ain't as clean, you don't look as crisp as you would want to be presented, we'll forego taking a picture on the scene. Maybe you could send us a picture that you like, right? Where you're dressed up and you're not fresh from the plant and you're dusty and stuff like that. So we're super, super intentional. And then I'm able, so from someone who comes from the community development background, community organizing, and I know a ton of people, I know a ton of Detroiters, I'm able to have these conversations that people most of the time are sort of afraid to have. No, I'm not putting you on TV looking like that. You know what I'm saying? Like, no, go change that. Let's fix this. All right, you're good to go. Because we also work in sometimes in lockstep with some of the TV news organizations. Detroit television or even the radio station, WDET, right? And so we want to make sure that after the story is told, that the subject, that the source is left with their dignity, right? It's left in a positive light.
Well, and it's really important. I think that's an interesting way to look at your job, you know, being engagement and being from the community, of making sure that people are viewed as themselves, but their best selves, not their worst selves or the stereotypical self that it might be easy to portray somebody. But you do a whole lot of work aside from just the work you're doing at Bridge to advance, you know, people standing. You know, in our community, there's always this discussion about financial literacy and capacity and things like that. And I know you do a lot of work on a credit union board where you are helping folks not just look clean, but make their books look clean. Can you talk a little bit about how people engage or grow or develop, like the work you're doing there?
Yeah, so I don't know how I have time to do all of this stuff. I serve as the chairman of the board for One Detroit Credit Union. The credit union is almost 85 years old, and we seek to change and impact the lives of Detroiters. What does that mean, right? We want to offer reputable and affordable financial products, right, and programs for people who are locked out of the traditional mainstream banking system, right? So you can keep a low balance in your account, because we understand that, you know, almost half of Detroit, you know, are living paycheck to paycheck. You know, a subset of us are living in poverty, right? But also provide the necessary tools, the investment tools, the wealth building tools, the financial education tools to, you know, move to help you become more economically mobile, right? One of the cool things that we saw in our books is, and, you know, this is to combat, you know, just horrible stereotypes about Black folks when they get like money. The stimulus checks started coming in, right? And every month we look at our delinquency rate, we look at our loan loss rate, and we figure out like where, like the products that folks are having trouble paying back, right? Our loans. When the stimulus hit, do you know our delinquency rate went down almost 50%? Like
wait. So when people got money, they paid their bills.
They paid their bills.
So the only reason they were paying, so the reason they were late was not because they weren't trying to be, but because they weren't bringing enough money to meet their needs.
And that's a nuance that I think is missing, because all we heard about on social media and in mainstream media is that, oh man, we're going to the malls and we're cashing out cards and we're doing all that. No, Black folks were paying their bills, and they were doing.
If only we knew a journalist who could tell this story.
We did tell this. And so I'm really honored to serve in for an institution that is majority Black, that offers products. I mean, real products. You can get a loan at a decent rate that's not predatory. You can get a car at a decent rate that's not predatory, and we work with you. We work on your credit, we work on your savings plans, and we have community outreach programs in partnership with local community development organizations to help the community become more financially educated so that we can be economically mobile in the city of Detroit.
And Orlando, you also have a program that I think is particularly cool, which is like a payday lending alternative for members. Can you just explain that? Because as you talk about a non-predatory thing and some of the work that you're doing, how does that program work? What does it take to get involved? And I know you've had some incredible successes with it.
Yeah, so the product that you're talking about is My Pay Today. It's so funny because I've never really been quizzed on our program, so this is fun. It's My Pay Today, and it's an alternative to the traditional payday lending institutions that we have everywhere in this city, right? At an astronomical interest rate. I'm talking about 200 and 300% interest rate. Just craziness that keeps people having to come back and pay these interest rates. We have a payday lending alternative with an interest rate that is under 18%, right? All you need to do is have an account with One Detroit Credit Union. You can apply online, right? And the account is refunded, the loan is refunded once you get your paycheck, right? And it's not an astronomical interest rate, it's one that's affordable. We don't see people taking out payday loans every week habitually, like people who really need it, they'll take advantage of it. But it's available to our members. You can go to onedetroitcu.org to sign up to become a member.
So what you're telling me is, if I have a paycheck and I may have one of these cash flow issues, that there's a credit union with a brother who is the chairman of the board who could provide us with an alternative if that's something that we needed. And they could go to onedetroitcu.org if they needed that kind of product.
Okay. Sure. Tell them Orlando Bailey sent you.
Oh, see, now you know somebody. It's like those. Is that the State Farm? You get the Rogers rate. You know.
Hey, yeah. Listen, it's so funny. I always tell Detroiters and my neighbors, is like, you know somebody in media, and you know somebody in a financial institution world. Yo, leverage that. Use me.
And you still live on the east side, right? Like, are you in one of those swanky? You're in one of those swanky, like, gated communities that can't nobody come knock on the door, like, or you live in a spot where somebody could be like, "Hey, Orlando, what's up?"
Some days the gate is open. Like that's the only drawback to where I live. Everybody knows where I live. I live in the lofts at Rivertown, right on Jefferson, across from Belle Isle. And so some days it really is like Fort Knox getting up in that mud. Other days the gates, are open. You come in, visit me. Tell them
what's up. See, now you better watch out. You're gonna have a bunch of grandmas sending people. They're gonna be like, "Now, I got a niece, my granddaughter, she about your age, she's looking for a good man. Orlando, can we? But watch out."
Grandma, I'm sorry to tell you, but I am in a fulfilling relationship with a beautiful woman and have been for a minute now. So don't send granddaughter over just yet. I'll let you know if it don't work out. But
That's what's up.
Yeah, but my number has been the same. Detroit knows my number too. So my number has been the same since 9th grade, and all of Detroit has my number. So if you really need to get in contact, you need to get into contact with me. If you need to get connected with any of these organizations that I'm talking about, you can hit me up at 313-784-4823.
And so as you talk about a little bit about that, I kind of want to just speak really quickly to this issue of not just representation, but place-based representation, right? So you started with, I'm from the east side, I live on the east side. On Authentically Detroit, you always say, broadcasting from the Lower East Side, right? Like, what does it mean to you to be able to be from your community, represent your community, and provide space and opportunities in your community?
It's a privilege for me. It really is. The reason why I'm always touting the East Side, number one, because it's a calling card and an identifier for family, right? Jamon Jordan says that Black Detroit in the Lower East Side is one of the richest historical areas in the city of Detroit in the state of Michigan for Black history, right? When Black folks started coming here, especially in the Great Migration, most of us were relegated to the East Side. And so it's this small town, really familial atmosphere. People feel like family. The cool thing about the dualities that I live in is that having grown up there with my grandmother really being like the matriarch, not only of our family, but of the neighborhood and of the block, and the convener of the neighborhood, is that when I came home to work in the city, people knew who I was already because they knew my grandma, right? It's like, "Oh, I know who you are. You Mamie's, yeah, I remember you. Okay. Right. Okay, we're gonna let you, figure yourself out, and we know you're on the learning curve, but you better figure this out because this means a lot to us. This work,
right?
causes, this planning, this activism, this advocacy means a lot. But I was afforded the grace to learn on the curve and then to practice community development, journalism, activism in the neighborhoods that I call home, in the neighborhoods that my family calls home. And so it is a trust builder, right? Like, you can identify me as an East Sider, as a trusted voice, someone that you can trust, and y'all know my family.
Right.
Y'all know, like Eric DeWicki came to a community meeting one day, and he lives in Morningside, and he's a former professor at University of Michigan, just retired. Like,
he was one of my professors.
Right? Why did Eric DeWicki come to a community meeting with Polaroid pictures of me at 6 and 7 years old from a block party on the East Side? He was like, Orlando, I told you, man, I've known you your whole life. It's like, there are people that we get to work with that have known us our entire lives and have seen us grow up. And so now, being in a position of privilege to provide platform to issues, to provide platform for people to express their expertise, to express their power and experience, it is one of the most enriching experiences that I get to live, and I love to do it. That's why we give away the platform at Bridge Detroit, and the platform at Authentically Detroit, and even Urban Consulate, man. It's like we exist in this medium to highlight and to amplify Detroit, real Detroit.
Well, you can't bring up Urban Consulate and not let the people know what that is. I mean, I didn't know we was gonna have enough time to bring in even more of the things that Orlando does, because you've been doing you've been doing Urban Consulate for what, 4 years now after you took over from Chase? It's been 4 years?
19, 20, 21, 3, going on 4.
3 years? Yeah.
Yeah. And so Urban Consulate is a place where we convene people to have critical conversations about how to build more just and equitable cities. I've been fortunate enough to be the Detroit host since 2018, and have been able to really grow our footprint, grow our funding to provide high level, really beautiful looking programming and real and authentic conversations about just that. How do we build more just and equitable cities? What ideas do you have? What barriers are you running into? What's getting on your nerves? What encourages you? What makes you happy? These are the kinds of questions that I'm asking change makers and city builders and politicians and lawyers and artists at the Consulate. And so it's amazing. We have a few different chapters around the states. We have a chapter in Cincy, the Chicago area, Philadelphia, New Orleans, and in Austin. So we moving and shaking, and it's really, really good work. Shout out to Chase Cantrell for gifting me that platform, because he was like, I want Orlando to have it. It's like,
I feel like my first Urban Consulate experience was like Claire Nelson in like 2012 or like
15.
Okay.
It ain't that old.
It feels like forever ago,
I know. Yeah, man, but it's a dope space. The space that we create for people to come and, commiserate and connect. Marlo Stoudemire used to call it organic collisions. Right? People to come and organically collide and build network and share ideas. It really is magic. It is.
Speaking of Marlo, I know his loss was hard on you, that you've been really invested in, the Stoudemire Wellness Center. What are you doing to kind of manage your own mental health? And I know you've talked a lot about it over the last year and a half. Like, what are you doing?
I said on Facebook the other day that I am breaking up with false urgency. That's number one. That's high on my list. Everything ain't so doggone urgent. Y'all can miss me with that, right? But I have a really good therapist that I pay really good money to help me, sort of suss out sometimes a lot of the noise that goes on in my brain, because my life is so complicated, it's so scheduled, it's so public, and it's dynamic. And so I have that space once a month to talk about whatever it is that I need to talk about, She helps me to find the answers and the advice
Mm-hmm.
within myself, right? And sometimes she gives advice too, but she's just a master facilitator in helping me realize what I'm feeling and why I'm feeling that way, and gives me the tools to, continue along this journey in the most healthy way possible. So I'm hyper aware of how I show up. I'm hyper aware of how I come off because I work at it, bro. I
Mm-hmm.
work at it. I lead a lot of amazing conversations. And sometimes these conversations are really tense. And sometimes
Mm-hmm.
conversations are really traumatic. And sometimes we spar. But I try my hardest to lead with joy and love
Yeah.
and a smile, right? And that goes a long way. That goes a long way toward healing a lot of a lot of the things that we need to heal, especially in this pandemic year. The palpable loss that we've all experienced. And Marlo and I were very close. My big brother, my
Mm-hmm.
mentor, a forerunner for me in many regards, especially when it comes to my experience with the Marshall Memorial Fellowship with the German Marshall Fund in
Mm-hmm.
the United States, right? Marlo has had an outsized and continues to have an outsized impact in my life. But I got to step away. I got to step away and I got to feel that he's no longer here, right?
Mm-hmm.
I got to step away and have conversations sometimes with his widow Valencia and be like, yo, what's good? How you feeling? I'm here, right?
Mm-hmm.
Every opportunity that I get, especially when I'm being interviewed by Channel 4, they often
Mm-hmm.
interview me, or when I'm anchoring American Black Journal, I try to insert his legacy. I try to insert his
Mm-hmm.
memory whenever I can, because I don't think that we've spent enough time really just sitting in and
Mm-hmm.
acknowledging that when we can really go outside again, a lot of folks ain't coming back outside.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No, that's real. And I know, my wife's a clinical psychologist, and I know a number of friends have talked about their own journey to find the right therapist and being looking for either a person of color, a Black man, a Black woman. How did you do your search? Just because I imagine you're a
I
methodical
love this
person, right?
question.
Like you're the kind of person that's like, hey man, I figured out the best way to do this. And people probably would want to know how to find this answer.
Man, let me tell you who there's no database of Black therapists. I tried, right? Google search, right? And some referrals from some other Black therapists and MSWs that I know. And my admonishment to anybody who's seeking therapy is to interview your therapist. Put your
Mm-hmm.
therapist on trial, right? Suffice it to say, and this didn't happen on purpose, but all of my doctors, therapists included, are Black women. I'm so lucky, bro, because they
No,
be
no, 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 no.
like,
Let me stop you there. That is not a lucky decision. That is an intentional
it's
selection,
intentional.
right? Like that. It is. If you were like doing nothing, all your doctors would not be Black women, right? Like that was you saying, "Hey, I'm opting into this."
Yeah, but I interviewed my therapist. I called the number and I was able to get her. And I was like, hey, do you counsel Black men, right? I am a person of faith. So what do you think about Christianity? And, I am experiencing these kind of things and have experienced this
Mm-hmm.
in my life. Do you have experience? Like I interviewed her to the point where we were like, okay, I'll do one session as a trial run, like 1 or 2 sessions as a trial run. And after the second session, I was like, the rest is history. 4 years with my
Mm-hmm.
therapist. The best
Okay.
decision I've made. One of
Okay.
the best decisions I've ever made.
Well, I love that. So you've got your mental health in the hands of a professional that you feel confident in. What are you doing for your physical health? How are you staying active? How are you keeping it moving?
I'm getting up early. And so what's funny is, Adam, I don't know if you notice about me. I may have said this to you. I am not a morning person. Like I wake
Hmm.
up and I wake up mad that I got to get up. Right? Like I wake up and I'm upset that I have to wake up and start moving around, right?
Uh-huh.
And for me, it was just a horrible way to start the day. Like I gotta figure out
Mm.
how to get rid of my little attitude and then start the
Mm-hmm.
day. and become the best version of myself. So one of the things that I started doing within the last few months is I started a new habit of getting up early before the sun, right? And when I open my eyes, I get right up. Like I start moving around. I make myself move around, and I go outside and I walk until the sun comes up. So I'm able to, be outside. I'm able to take in fresh air and sunlight. I'm able to get my steps in and, get that little bit of cardio in, right?
Okay.
I have a personal trainer who I meet with sporadically virtually because he's in Texas. His day job is Dallas Cowboys, but he still trains me.
Okay. I like how you threw that in. Your trainer works for Dallas Cowboys. I would throw that in too.
Yeah, he's dope. And he's my friend. I know somebody who work with a Cowboy. And he keeps me on point with my food intake, because one of the things about me is my food habits are horrible, meaning that I just got to remember to eat. Like that's how stacked my days are sometimes. It's like, oh, did you eat? And he's like, man, if you don't stop. So he's on me about that, my protein. So all of that. Yeah.
That's what's up. No one ever has to remind me to eat. My stomach is like, hey, bro, you gonna eat? Because if you don't, we're gonna have problems.
Adam, you're an athlete. Like you're a real live athlete who, you gotta eat.
Yeah. I do. But I leap out of bed. Like I get up in the morning, like, oh man, it's a great new day. Like I'm like, like in a movie when a dog is like at home and the person comes home and the dog's like, hey, how's it going? Like that's me in the morning. I'm like, my wife is like, if you don't calm down.
Chill, bro. Chill. No, but I'm really trying to get there. So like I have a little playlist that I've curated for mornings, and top of my playlist is Optimistic by Sounds of Blackness. Woo! It's a vibe and it gets me going every single day. So I'm becoming this morning person, bro. Like I'm becoming the elders that I used to talk about. Like I'm up early and I'm out and walking around and drinking coffee and working a little bit before everybody else comes to work. Who am I? And when did I become an elder? I don't know.
So when I have to get up real early, I'm not a huge music person, but when I got to get up early, like I got Army Week and I'm away, like my alarm is my president is black. And like, I just hop out of bed, like, yep, I'm rolling. I'm ready to go.
Gosh, what a time to be alive. What a time to be alive when our president was black. My goodness.
But my Lambo's still not blue, but maybe one day.
Hey, you can get it. You're making a decision to,
I am. Yes. There will be no blue Lambos at my life. But maybe one day. But Orlando, thank you so much for taking some time to like chill and educate folks. Can you just let folks know how they can follow you, how they can follow the work you're doing at Bridge? How do they stay in touch?
All right, real quick. So if you want to follow the work of Urban Consulate, you can go to urbanconsulate.com. You can also like and subscribe to our stuff on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at Urban Consulate. The Authentically Detroit podcast, you can email us at authenticallydetroit@gmail.com if you have topics that you want us to talk about. And you can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Authentically Detroit. Bridge Detroit. bridgedetroit.com. You can go and read our posts there. You can contact me at Orlando Bailey at bridgedetroit.com. That's Orlando Bailey at Bridge Detroit. No, I'm saying it wrong. O Bailey at bridgedetroit.com. It's O Bailey at bridgedetroit.com. You can like and subscribe to us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Bridge Detroit. Also, what was the other thing? Was that it? That's everything. Oh, One Detroit Credit Union. Yes. Yep. Get involved with us. OneDetroitCU.org. You can schedule an appointment to open an account. And once you have that account open and you got a direct deposit, if you need to take advantage of any of those financial products that are non-predatory, you have access and are able to do so. Tell them that Orlando Bailey sent you. And check out our work on Detroit Public Television. Oh, we didn't tell the people. The East Side got an Emmy from my work in DPTV and PBS. So check out our work.
Did you? I heard nothing about this Emmy you got. Is it shiny?
The East Side got an Emmy, bro. Yeah, it's shiny. My parents got it. I don't even get to see
I bet you better get a second one if you want at your crib.
Yeah, right. I know, right? So check us out on Channel 56 or check your local listings for your local PBS affiliate, which would be Detroit Public Television.
Awesome. Well, Orlando, thank you so much for kicking it with us. We look forward to having you back. And it's
Yes.
just been great. You know, this has been the We Can Do Better podcast, where we interview people who are doing amazing work in Detroit, across the 2nd Senate District and the state of Michigan, that highlight ways that you can get involved and do amazing things. So thanks, Orlando.
Thank you.